Hey, how's it going? It's your pal, Mike Squires. And this is the Couch Risk Podcast, episode number 258. This episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Peter Summit. Peter is the lead singer in a band called Crashing Wayward. We had their bass player, Carl Rather, on the podcast earlier this year. And on June 9th, the week that this podcast is released, they'll be releasing their debut album called Listen. It's a very, very cool rock record with a lot of different influences and sort of styles at play. Always feels very cohesive and without wearing any one influence too weighting down their sleeves too heavily. I really enjoyed listening to this album leading up to our conversation, and I particularly like that song Breathe. Hopefully that one does real well for them. This record is coming out on RFK Media, which is a label founded by Ron Keel, which is also a little nuts. It might be interesting to have Ron on the podcast. I own some Keel records. It's that guy's had a long career. Holy shit. And for people who don't know, he was instrumental in Yngwie's sort of like arrival. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm probably telling you shit you already know. Anyway, this record is great. I think there's a little something for everyone there. It feels very now without feeling like it's not going to be cool next year. Sounds modern. Great hooks. But furthermore, this conversation was fun to have. We had a lot of yucks. We had a lot of laughs. We talked about all kinds of crap. And I had a great time hanging out with Peter. So thank you, Peter, for hanging by. I wish you guys the best of luck on your new record. Listen. Go out and listen to Listen now, this week, if you're listening the day it comes out. So with that being said, listen to this. Couch Riffs needs your support. I'm not even fucking kidding. Good Lord. We have a Patreon. Patreon.com/couchriffs. You could get over there. You could, if you enjoy the podcast or the cover song videos we make, Peter's going to be singing in one. Carl's going to be playing bass in one soon. Everything we create on YouTube, all the streaming services, it's all free. However, if you feel it in your heart to help make this possible, help make it happen, you can support Couch Riffs for as little as $5 a month. That's right. That's the only place you can get the audio for the cover songs. We don't put them up on any streaming services or anything like that, but you can download the MP3s over there and have them to keep. Do whatever the fuck you want with them. Just don't sell them or give them away, because that would be a bummer for us. Thank you if you're already supporting Couch Riffs at Patreon. I really appreciate your support. You're fucking great. You make this happen. That's what you do. So thank you. I would like to thank Variety Coffee Roasters. Variety Coffee Roasters in Brooklyn, New York, is a very fine boutique coffee roaster. They have a number of cafes located in Brooklyn and throughout Manhattan. If you do not live in New York, or you're not visiting and don't have the means to visit one of their cafes and buy their coffee, go to varietycoffeeroasters.com. Buy their coffee online. You can subscribe to their coffee and never, ever, ever run out of coffee. Click a couple buttons. They ask you some questions. What do you like? How much you want? How often do you want it? And they just send it to you. Me, I live in the country. If I run out of coffee, it's a fucking ordeal. I can't just walk out my door and there's not a coffee cart down at the end of the block. So for me, that's a treat. And I drink Variety every single morning. No joke. That's it. Thank you, Variety Coffee Roasters. You guys are awesome. Listen, we're going to get into the episode now. Don't forget the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Imagine if everyone treated everyone great and helped everyone else have a great day. Imagine if everyone in the world, just once, everyone, even the people you don't like, especially the people you don't like. Imagine if everyone had a great day, how the world would look after just one day. Just don't be a dick. Right?
There it is. Yeah.
Peter, I'm so happy to see your face. I forgot how handsome you were. I spent an evening flirting with you and your wife in Las Vegas, and then here we are. We're like best friends.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like instant buddies. And by the way, I love the stash. It reminds me of you like a George Clooney meets Marlon Brando right now.
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah, very.
Yeah,
When I was living, thank you. When I
yeah.
was living in Brooklyn, uh, I was in one of the bodegas, in my neighborhood, and some stone
Mm.
dude said something about George Clooney to me, and
Oh, really?
I was like, don't run home and tell your girl you ran into George because she'll be down here. And then he didn't think that was very funny. But because I
Right,
think he was
totally.
he thought he was insulting me, and I was like, buddy,
Right,
I don't know if you've been around lately, but that's not really an insult.
right. I used to get
I
that
don't.
back in the in the '90s, but it was Tommy Lee,
Right.
and it was like it was cool because Tommy Lee at the time was cooler, and he was hot off the presses all over the place, and people used to hurl that at me as like an insult, and I was like, all right, well that's cool. I mean, I guess,
Did you have
but
long hair?
I didn't. I had it was kind of like the 1995 Tommy Lee wearing the wife beater and the leather pants, you know,
Nice.
and yeah, little
Nice.
flavor saver.
Nice. Oh yeah. Did you have your tongue pierced? Gen X?
No, no, never.
Septum?
But I almost got no, nothing like that. Nothing crazy with the piercings. I've just pierced my nose quite a few times, but I was a huge Dennis Rodman fan, so my first tattoo was going to be a sun around my belly button, like a tribal sun. So I'm glad I didn't go through with that.
That is awesome. I don't worry. I have a lot of dumb tattoos. We're off to a great start. just,
Yeah.
I just want to reinforce how any bad tattoo idea in this, you're you're in the shade of the safety tree right now. This is,
Yeah.
you're safe. Like
Okay,
I
good.
hope that you got some dumb tattoos, like a fucking
I did.
dolphin, anklet or something.
Right. Yeah. You know what? I never take my shirt off on stage, and it's probably better that way because I do have what some would call a tramp stamp, but it's like this big on my lower back, and it says a moment in your life. So that probably wasn't like the best thing to put right there.
I have I have a
Yeah.
massive back and I nothing but hair back there.
Yeah.
Like one day I'll fix it.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine who's a tattoo artist, this guy Cheyenne Sawyer. He he and I have had this idea for a long time, and it's a terrible idea. But he's like, I'll just start, and I'll put a little tattoo right in the middle of your back, and we'll let it heal, and it'll be an art project. He's like, and
Right.
then 3 months later, we'll put something just slightly bigger over it, and we'll just keep doing. Your whole back will be a giant fucked up cover up until until your whole back is covered. So dumb.
Where is he at right now with it? Just a little
Uh,
circle.
I mean, just hair is back there, just hair and moles.
Just yeah.
He's put some dumb tattoos on me though, and he's been brave enough to let me tattoo him, which is
Yeah.
you've got to be
Oh,
brave.
really? Dude, yeah, were you just like digging in there and not even really knowing?
He's
I can
put
only
hours
imagine.
and hours and hours of ink into my body, and so I pay attention. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think I could.
Uh,
There's a cockpit door, so I don't think I could fly a plane, but I'm a pretty
right.
attentive guy. I pick up things relatively. Like I've learned the mechanics of it. He also set it up so I
Yeah.
couldn't hurt him too bad.
Oh, that's cool, man.
But I'm a shitty drawer. All you have to do is trace, though.
Yeah. Dude, shitty tattoos are like the trend, you know? It's by his
It
favorite
kinda,
tattoo. Who
huh?
knows?
I
Yeah,
wish I wish I had more black and gray tattoos. I have a lot, I'm like 90s
dude.
guy. I have a
Yeah.
lot of color.
hmm It's exactly my thought. And I say it all the time, like, you can date me by my tattoos, because
Yeah.
like 90s, early 2000s, the more you had, the more color you had. Now, just like you and me, I feel the same way. Like, okay, I wish I kind of had black and gray, which I kind of did with my hands, and on my legs.
Same.
I went there. Yeah.
It'll be cool again in 10 years when we're fucking too weird looking to want to show our skin. Don't worry.
Totally.
So, Peter, it's my understanding you're from San Diego,
Yes,
right? Born and
I am.
raised?
Born and raised.
Wow.
Yeah. San Diego.
Sunt- I know. I wouldn't do it. It's too low hanging.
Yeah.
Too low hanging
Yeah.
fruit. And did you ever live anywhere else?
Yes, I did for 2 weeks. I uh yeah, it was like, it's funny because it was like one of those epiphany moments. And I don't know what forever reason, my parents got divorced when I was 6, so I never really lived with my dad. But I was living on my own. I was in an apartment that started off with my older brother and little brother. We were all sharing it.
Yeah.
And my oldest brother moved out. And at some point in my life, my dad was like, talked me into, you got to come to Florida. He was living in southern Florida, like Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to drop everything you're doing, move out here. You can be an artist, do whatever you want to do. And I took the bait and I packed everything up, had a bon voyage party with my family and friends. A week later, my dad's calling me a mama's boy. And,
Oh,
you're nothing. And I'm like, okay, this is why I don't live with you. And
this was
called
last
my
year.
mom and said, this was last year, man. I just got my act together. Yeah.
How old were
And
you when you went out there?
I was 22.
Oh,
22. Yeah, 22. Because
so he didn't really want you to be an artist. He wanted you to come out and do housework.
totally. My dad is a very loving person, great guy. Just can't live with him.
Sure.
So, and Florida is another world, especially if you come from San Diego. I thought I was the shit in San Diego. I got there and nobody would even look at me. It was like I couldn't get a girl to look my way. I'm like, I never really thought I was a shit, but I was like Toxic Avenger in Southern Florida. I'm like, what is the deal?
You're 22 and you're just like, here I
22.
am. Nope.
Yep. Exactly.
You might not have been douchey enough. Maybe not enough cologne.
I hope that's the reason. Yeah.
Maybe too many tattoos, not enough cologne.
Right.
Do you golf?
I don't golf.
See, there's your problem.
Yeah.
Did you so let's reel it back. Were you already playing music? Were you singing, and do you play guitar?
I strum guitar. I wouldn't call myself an instrumentalist at all, but I use it for writing, and I usually just with melody and stuff like that helps me come up with melodies. But feel like I'm getting a little better at it. But I wouldn't go, put my house on it or anything. But
you don't have to.
Yeah.
Did you sing in choir or anything in school? Like what? When did you catch the bug and decide, like, I want to be the person with a microphone?
Yeah. So through in high school, I was really heavily into R&B at that time. a lot of soul, a lot of classic. Like I was raised on classic soul stuff, so I wanted to be a
When you
soul
say
singer.
classic, are you talking about
I'm talking
Luther
about
Vandross?
Jodeci and
Oh, you're talking 90s.
no, I'm joking. But that is classic soul now. But I definitely was in the Jodeci. But
Sure.
it was, Wilson Pickett, Sam Cooke, Jackson 5, anything Motown, uh, Teddy Pendergrass, the Bee Gees.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a big Bee Gees fan.
Bee Gees is my number 3. I put up 2. Number 3, dude. Bee Gees
It's
is
a
my
you're a
3.
singer. You don't have no one's gonna
Yeah.
hold no one's gonna hold you accountable. Uh, Bee Gees is your number 3 act.
Yeah.
Oh, give me number 1 and 2.
So I'm going to do, as far as a group or like a
Sure.
band,
Okay.
they're my number 3. So number 1 would be the Beatles. Number 2 would be Queen. And
Mm.
number 3 would be the Bee Gees. And they're so like, it's almost like the same group in a way, you know what I mean? It's like one influenced the other and very similar in sound and texture.
All 3 of those bands have a lot of musical crossover, I think. And
Right.
all coming from the Beatles.
Right. Exactly.
The early Bee Gees stuff, people don't listen to it, but
Right. Nobody even knows about it. Like, this is the Bee
no, they just
Gees.
think Staying
It's like,
Alive and that's it, right?
yeah. My dad used
Maybe
to
they know
sing to
Nights on
us,
Broadway, but
dude.
nobody's, and now
Nobody's
people
hip
know
to
started a joke.
right. Or you don't know what it's like. But
Right.
yeah, my dad used to sing to me Smile all the time. Smile, that everlasting smile. Whatever. I don't know all the words, but
What is the one that I think is so creepy that is a Run to Me? Do you know this one?
yeah.
It's so creepy. Um, Run to me when you need someone older, right?
Yeah.
When you need a
Dude, I got
shoulder.
to hear that one.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's amazing. I
Yeah.
so badly want to cover it. I had a fantasy to cover a Bee Gees EP, and I wanted to
Really?
just. It's really hard, not being a singer. It's a challenge. It's a real hurdle.
Dude, yeah. Especially, yeah, there you go. And especially if you're going to tackle the Bee Gees, man, those guys, like their harmonies, it's like the Everly Brothers, you know? It's like, it's
Brutal.
so perfect. Yeah.
I got Holiday, and I started a joke. I recorded 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You got to send those to me. I'd love to hear those.
Well, they're not very good.
It doesn't matter. Still want to hear it.
So what about number 4? Do you have are you that kind of a categorical
I
organizer?
don't, man. I don't actually. And when you asked me to put together a playlist, I'm like, dude, this is like, that's like the hardest. So how do
Yeah.
I put this? So I was like, in regards to the playlist, I did it as far as like what you were saying had some kind of major impact in my life. But on that playlist, for example, I left off a ton of stuff that was really heavily influential. So yeah,
You are limited to
I,
13 songs. Which one of your own?
totally.
I'm curious. Which one of your own songs did you choose? I haven't looked at it yet.
I put "Breathe" on there,
That's my
and
favorite song on the album.
is it? Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I love that.
It's
I love that
great.
song. So yeah, yeah. Thank
It's
you.
great. Uh,
Appreciate that.
I appreciate you sharing it. We also, for
Yeah.
people listening or watching, we're recording this like 5 or 6 weeks before this episode comes out. So I might see you in Las Vegas on I have a day off, May 6th.
Oh, do you? Okay,
Yeah.
great.
We're going to put
That'd be
together
yeah.
a
We got to
lunch with
hang out.
Nils and whoever's around. If you're around, it'd be great to see you.
I'll be around. And Carl Ray there.
Yes.
You know that guy.
You guys have two people on the podcast now before your record's out.
Yeah, I know, that's amazing. I was thinking
Incredible.
about that. I'm like, wow, man.
You
Yeah.
guys are
Thank you,
you guys are really moving. You guys are doing it.
dude. We're really doing it, man. We need to book some more shows, though. Hopefully, that's going to change as soon as this album comes out. So that's what I'm really
Um,
hoping for.
all right, we got to get on track. Otherwise, this whole fucking hour and a half is going to get away from us, and we're going to be fucking
Yeah.
pussyfooting around. What was high school like in San Diego? I imagine it's like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but I know that that's probably not completely accurate.
Well, you're pretty accurate if this was the 70s. If I went to high school in the 70s, for sure. Like, but I grew up in kind of like a white collar suburbia.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it was really kind of like ET, like the scene where they're just riding bikes through, neighborhoods that are being built and
Were you in La Jolla?
whoop-de-doos. And I was in Rancho Bernardo, which was a little
Okay.
bit inland, pretty much like really, um, kind of like, it was close. It was that was kind of just like parallel to La Jolla
Okay.
enough. But yeah, it was like kind of like a smaller, like ranch, Poway area, actually where Blink 182 went to school, high school. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so I grew up there, but then my mom remarried, and so we moved to San Marcos, which was really kind of like a dairy kind of part of town, but it was more blue collar. So going from seventh grade all the way through seventh grade in Rancho Bernardo Poway, and then moving to San Marcos in eighth grade was kind of like polarizing for, just total change. It was a little bit more rougher. I kind of was like a little bit more picked on in eighth grade. Hated it. But
Your
then
dad was your dad in the
ninth
eighth
grade.
grade there? He was calling you a mama's boy.
Yeah, he's calling me a mama's boy. He had to have coached all those kids or something. I don't know. But yeah, but when it got to high school, it was kind of like even playing field. Everybody was new, so all those eighth graders were brand new, and my high school years were pretty good. It was like at an awesome time. I imagine as it was musically in the '80s as well too. I was in that really amazing time of what we call hair metal these days, glam. The resurgence of glam metal was dying out. Grunge was coming in. You had a lot of really good R&B and soul. Hip hop was kind of taken off at that point. And yeah, it was a really cool time, and it felt like inclusive. Like a very inclusive kind of experience,
Yeah.
So nothing too traumatizing as far as getting bullied and such. But I had a really good high school time.
Did you have a high school band?
I didn't. So that's funny. Oh yeah, going back to singing. So I was like really into soul, and I was really into theater. I really wanted to be like on Saturday Night Live was my dream. But I also wanted to sing, and there was an audition for a school play, and I had to come in with a song and have the sheet music to give the pianist, and like I always was unprepared. I went to Sam Goody. You remember Sam Goody's?
Oh, yeah,
Record
it's at the
store?
mall.
Yeah. Yeah. I ran to Sam Goody's after school, got a sheet music to Brian McKnight's One Last Cry. Because I'm like, oh, I know
Nice.
that song. Gave it to the pianist, and it was just like, I had no idea. The timing was off. I had no notes. It was the worst
Right.
experience of my life. I said, I'll never sing again in front of anybody ever. So
When you walked into that, though, I imagine, there was some part of you that told you, I can sing. Like there was something that gave you the confidence to go there, even though it ended up being a terrible experience, right?
right.
Do you think that was false
Yeah.
confidence, or do you think that situationally, you just had a bum experience?
I think it was just the bum experience, not being prepared, and it
Yeah.
was kind of like a life lesson, like you can't just go in there and expect to nail a song if you've never sang in front of anybody, especially on stage with a pianist,
Right.
So it was kind of like one of those things. It was so traumatizing though. But when I
How many
discovered
people were you
karaoke, that kind
shamed
of like
in front
changed.
of?
Oh gosh, probably like, you know what, dude? I still think about this all the time. I tell my kids this all the time. Like, I did this, and I said, it's still like sometimes I have nightmares about it. There was probably about 30 people,
Oh,
and I'm sure there was a good, 5 or 6 of them were really good looking girls,
right.
So
And as
it
a
was,
teenage kid, that's humiliating.
yeah, it was equivalent to being nude in front of everybody,
Right.
like, so because of course you're vulnerable and nude.
Yeah. So I cut you off, but you said then you discovered karaoke. Is that right?
Yeah, I discovered karaoke actually, and that was kind of like, good old Budweiser and karaoke, man. That kind of like changed the whole game. It was just kind of like off to the races from there. Liquid Courage and um, yeah.
What were your
My friend
karaoke
was like,
go-tos?
oh, it's funny. It now I became so confident. I was doing Stairway to Heaven, Dream On, anything that was like anything that was like 12 minutes or longer. And
Showstopper.
totally. And I was like the guy, especially if we did like the dive bar, like karaoke place where it's like really divey. I'd be the guy that'd be standing on the bar in people's
Sure.
faces, the older guys that just want to kick my ass, because they wanted to sing
Anything
next or they just hated me.
anything ever come of that? Any narrow escapes?
No, no, not that I can recall. Some pretty interesting
That's
nights though.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Drunk karaoke nights always are.
Yeah. In
But
Escondido, San
you
Diego.
are a confident performer on stage, and I imagine that's where you cut your teeth then.
I did. I did really. Yeah, it's like again, kind of going back to that high school wanting to perform, like do Saturday Night Live and kind of like the improv, just kind of like performance. That's kind of
Yeah,
like how I am now. It's in that there's nothing scripted. It's just kind of like feeling it,
sure.
and but that is where I cut my teeth. Now, the first time I ever performed in a band, I mean, I was like this on a mic. I didn't move away from the mic stand, you know. But karaoke, I'm just like, you know,
Right.
yeah.
When did you finally get the confidence to throw yourself into a situation where you were playing with other live musicians?
So this goes back to when I moved to Florida for 2 weeks, and I was driving, um, and Buck Cherry's "Lit Up" came on, and first time I ever heard that song, it was like, what the hell? Rock and roll wasn't on the airwaves of that kind at all.
Yeah.
So it was just like, what the hell is this? And so anytime I was driving, it would come on. And I'm like, and my dad's, "You're a mama's boy, you're a mama's," and that song's on the radio, "You're a mama's boy." I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going back to San Diego. I'm going to start a band. And
Right.
that's pretty much what I did.
That song inspired you to fuck off back to San Diego and be a singer.
That song did, yeah. I don't
That's
know. It
amazing.
was, yeah. And that album came out actually, it actually was out, but I didn't know of any. It's just one song playing, "Lit Up."
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the record store in Florida, saw that the album was out, and I got it and put it on. It was just like, Steve Jones produced that, and
Yeah, man.
I assume did a lot of the guitars on there. But it was just a good, dirty.
I think that's all Keith Nelson guitars.
Is that all Keith?
Keith is a buddy of mine, yeah, and he's awesome. He's actually
Yeah.
making, producing and mixing records now. He's killer. What
Yeah,
a dude.
I heard he's doing awesome. He's awesome. Actually, I've met him a couple of times, and he was always super kind. So I
The best
apologize
dude.
for that, because I was, it's like when you hear things, it's like, oh, Steve Jones, he had that, you just never know what to believe.
I mean, well, Jonesy is a legend, and
Yeah.
I just believe whatever he says, because why not? It's
Right,
more
totally.
fun to believe whatever Steve says than to not.
Yeah. I got interesting Steve Jones stories from an old guitarist. I can't share it, though. I'll have to share it with you in private. But he used
Maybe
to
after
tour
we
and
stop
go on
recording.
the road with him. Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of spending time with Steve and performed with him a few times, and it's always amazing.
Mm.
It's the best.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, he's legendary.
You're deeply inspired and
Deeply
also,
inspired, yes.
Also repelled from Florida, and you're just like on a bus back to San Diego. You're like, fuck all this.
Yep. Just off that first Buckcherry album.
Are you so motivated that you are like actively trying to find a band when you get back, or are you like, I don't know how to do this? Do you know people who play music?
I didn't know anybody, and it was just like, as soon as I got back, I made a handwritten flyer and made Xerox copies, and I put them up in Guitar Centers and Music Traders, which was like a chain in San Diego of UCD, like UCD store. Yeah. And I got a callback from somebody that managed one of the Music Traders.
Do you remember what the poster said? It had to say something good, right? Kick-ass singer, looks,
dude.
and attitude.
Actually, you know what?
You have one?
I might have it. Let me see if I can actually pull it up. I don't. He actually keeps all this stuff.
Looking to rip heads
let me see.
off.
It was just like that, dude, and I don't have it, but it was pretty much like that. It was like,
if you find it, please send it to me.
I'm gonna send it to you. But it was like one of those. It was like Buckcherry, Marilyn Manson, Lenny Kravitz, Motley Crue. It was like any rock band I could think of. I was just trying to get the point across of like rock.
You wanted people to know you weren't afraid to wear eyeliner.
Exactly. That was it. Leather pants and eyeliner, man. And a leather cowboy hat that was all,
twisted up,
contorted, and
let's go. Let's go. And so it didn't take long. You got a bite.
I did get a bite, but it was just Davey Vegas is what he went by. It was just me and Davey Vegas for about a year until we got a drummer that hit us up with one of our ads. But that year we were just like kind of like recording on his 4-track. Mm-hmm. And just it was kind of like, we're gonna make it one day.
Have you gone back
those dreams and aspirations?
Have you gone back and listened to that stuff?
Yeah, it's so bad, man. I was trying to see if I had something laying around just so you could see the cover. It was called Whiskey Star.
Whiskey Star.
And Whiskey Star with 2 R's.
Nice.
Yeah. And my brother came in to play bass, and he went by his middle name, which is Benjamin Ben Star. So that gave us like a tie to Y,
Very nice. Very nice.
It was cool and a bit cheesy, But
all music
that's
is.
the roots. Yeah.
So how long did that band go on?
That went on probably about 4 years, and it went through. We ended up bringing in another guitarist, and he kind of like took it over at that point. It was, Davey was on his way out. He wasn't really interested anymore in the band. And the new guy that came in, he and I became fast friends. And, we were going to move to Hollywood together and take the band to the next level. And
Yeah.
thankfully that never happened. But we went up to go look for an apartment, and I had the worst anxiety attack. And I didn't even know what anxiety was at that time, but I was just like crippled in the back of his van. It was a white
Driving around
Astro van
LA.
with no mirrors on the side. Yeah.
Right.
Driving through LA.
And so just to get a little bit of a perspective on the time, this is after Buck Cherry. It's been a couple years, so this must be like 2001. Does that sound right?
Yep. That is right. There you go.
Nailed it. So 2001, you guys cruise up to LA, and you are not having it.
No.
Does that break the band up? Does he?
No, you know what? It's funny. I had just met my to-be wife, who is my ex-wife. That's a whole other podcast. But I had just met her. Yeah. I had just met her, and I was like, what am I doing moving to Hollywood? I just met the love of my life, and for whatever reason, I had that crippling anxiety attack, and I broke the news to my guitarist. Yeah, I can't do this, man. And I think in hindsight, obviously, I got married and I had my kids and stuff, which is, the reason I didn't go, I guess, God willing.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I think it would have killed me, honestly. I just wasn't ready for Hollywood.
Were you taking care of yourself back then?
I never did any drugs. I never did any drugs. I
Ever?
I partook in a few dubage, here and there, and mostly like at concerts,
Right.
that passed, as they passed on.
Joint pass around.
But I never did drugs. Yeah.
Good
Never
for
did
you.
any drugs, and I wasn't thank you. I think that's kind of like just, I just knew myself. I knew that I couldn't, I knew that it would kill me either for whatever reason. I just was not attracted to it.
Let me tell you something about drugs. They're awesome at first.
Right.
At first.
Right. That is what I have heard.
Yeah. Well, good for you for being a smarty pants. I wasn't.
Yeah.
How long after this are you married and with your first child on the way?
So that was 2001. So by end of 2001, October 2001, I got married, and by April 2002, my first daughter was born.
Wow. Okay. So
the band's still together. We still have a band at that point too. So
still Whiskey Star.
Still Whiskey Star.
And what's the vibe with the band? Are you able to go and do stuff like especially the first year? That's heavy stuff at home.
So that's the interesting thing about me is I've always had support with even with my ex-wife with performing in music. She was supportive in me pursuing that as my current wife and love of my life allows me to do now. It's so I've been blessed in that way. So the band stayed together. And the funny thing is, through Whiskey Star is how I met Stacy David Blades, who is in Crashing Wayward.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like serendipitous, this Whiskey Star, because we had just started playing LA, even though we weren't living there, and kind of making some friends and connections there.
What band was he playing in then?
He was in a band called Super Cool, and that was with, I think, Eric Stacy from Faster Pussycat was playing in that at that time. And then he started a band called Smack. And it was like kind of like what he was doing was kind of like almost what was happening with Buck Cherry at that time, very kind of like street rock punk in a way.
Right.
So it was kind of like a cool thing that he had going on.
It felt that time it was so hopeful for rock music because it felt like that band was the spark, right? And that song in particular, it was like, holy shit, like AC/DC, Aerosmith, and Guns N' Roses had a child, and it's this,
right.
And this is going to change everything. And then the industry didn't throw gasoline on that fire quick enough, and radio just played the shit out of that song and still does, and just kind of moved on, right? But
right,
what happened on the band levels, where people were inspired.
Yeah,
Nobody got success like those guys, though.
No, that album that went what, gold? Almost it probably went platinum after 15 came out, I'm sure, or something.
I don't know.
But but again, like to your point, there was like nothing happening in rock at that time. There was this one band that I saw live that opened for the Cult when the Cult just got back together.
Was it New American
Matt
Shame?
Sorum. It was New American Shame. And I saw those guys live. I was like, again, it was one of those moments,
Those guys are from Seattle. They're my buddies.
Yeah. Love that. Dude, it was like killer.
Great band.
That was probably one of my favorite shows, was New American Shame and the Cult. I ended up seeing them twice in San Diego and Hollywood. So
that's funny.
I got it on CD still.
How awesome. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
And I think that New American Shame got signed on that sort of energy and excitement around Buck Cherry, sort of like caught the wake. But
right.
And they had some good tours, But I think they just put out one record. I don't know.
I think there was just that one, yeah. I think, were they on Atlantic or something? They're on a big label too.
I don't know, but Jeff Redding, their drummer, ended up being the drummer in Duff McKagan's Loaded, and that was a band that I did for a while. So we were bandmates, yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
Good dude. So you see these bands, you're already doing your band, you're super inspired. You're going for it. Now you have a family. It doesn't slow you down. At some point, you take a break, though. Is that right? Never.
No. I just kind of kept going. But it was also very important for me to remain present in my daughter's and my kids' life. Right. I think that was kind of like one of those things that was constantly pulling at me was, I hate to say this, but maybe it's like mental self-sabotage. Like, I know that these bands, I could do this. I have it. The bands I'm in are kind of, killer, it's happening, but I have this mental sabotage of, I don't want it to, because I don't want to miss my kids growing up,
Right.
So it's kind of like, as I've gotten older, like kind of reflect back on them, like, maybe that's what that was, I definitely feel in like, believe in kind of like this spiritual connection and pull in that way.
I think that if you took off and went on the road for months at a time, you would have regretted being away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Anytime, that's kind of like moving into the next band that ended up being, you know, even more, having a little bit more success, you know, region like San Diego, LA, and then we kind of started moving into national. Anytime we hit the road, it was like one of those things. I was like so depressed. I'd hit the stage, you know, put on my show, off the stage, calling home, you know. So
Right.
you kind of nailed it on that.
And so Whiskey Star comes to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the members follow over to the next band?
No, so the guitarist got asked to join a band called Fono, Fono. They were out of the UK, and they were just going on tour with the Goo Goo Dolls. So they were like kind of playing the small stage at these amphitheaters, you know, like where they have the smaller stages at the entrance.
Sure.
So they did a tour like that, and it was about a year and a half after that, I got a call from just out of the blue. I owned a clothing store in San Diego at the time, and I got a call from this guy, Tommy Andrews, who has a very interesting story. He played with Steve Jones and Cher, and actually had a daughter or a son with Stephanie Seymour. So very interesting guy. But I got a call from him that he was starting a band called 3 Minute Miracle, and that my old drummer from Whiskey Star recommended me. So I went in, and they came up to my store to meet with me. They saw me, and at that time I had, you know, one sleeve, and you know, it was like one of those moments like, dude, he fits the part. They didn't even hear me or anything.
They never heard you sing,
so I
and
went in.
you?
Never heard me sing, yeah. So they gave me like he gave me I think a disc, and he's like, of just music. He said, here, this is what we're working on. And I took it home, and I wrote lyrics and a melody to a couple of the songs, and then I went in a day or two later and just kind of auditioned and jammed with them, and a week later we're playing a show. So the drummer from Whiskey Star ended up actually being in that incarnation of that band.
All right.
For a short time, yeah.
What year is this?
2004. So I just had my second daughter.
Wow. And the pressure is on. So you've got a business, you've got a family, a business, which has its own set of stresses, just to keep the business going and keep it successful enough to support everything outside of the business.
Right.
And music.
Yeah. So I had,
how are you managing
a really good support. So I worked with my brother. I owned the store with two of my brothers, and one of them worked with me. And I kind of hit him up, and I said, hey man, I'm joining this band, and I think we got a shot. I'm going to not work during the week. I'll work the weekends. And so that left me open to rehearse, and I'll go up and I'll do my buying in LA once a week or whatever, because we did a new and vintage clothing store. So that's pretty much what I did for about 2 years. And he was cool. He supported me in that. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And at the same time, it was like music at that time became my job. It was like I was clocking in for rehearsals every day, and I'd be at home and I'd tuck my kids in. You know, I'd be there when they woke up. And so I had a good thing going on for a bit there.
Wow. Is the store still open?
No, I closed it in 2015. It just got to the point where it's just too much for me. And I just needed to change my life.
Sure.
But I do still run it. It's online, a smaller version of it. My wife and I, we do a vintage curation online. And that's, so I'm kind of like doing the same thing I did almost 20 years ago, vintage and music during the week.
Did the store also have an online presence, or was it just a storefront?
It was just a storefront. At that time, it was like when I first opened it,
You didn't even know
internet
how
really
good
wasn't anything.
You didn't know how good it could
have
be.
got, dude. Seriously. There's a really cool history to the brand, It goes back to the late 60s with my uncle. He had a bar and restaurant, and it's called Home. And he became good friends with John Lennon. And so John Lennon's worn the T-shirt. Like, I probably have about 20 photos of John Lennon wearing a Home T-shirt. So I've kind of kept it open and online now, just to keep that history going.
Awesome.
But yeah, I wish I had an online at that time. But dude, it's like the denial, because business was so good with people coming in. It's like, no, I don't need an online.
What neighborhood were you guys? Were you in?
I was in Encinitas.
Okay.
And that was like North County beach town.
Nice. Oh
yeah.
There's a
where
famous
Eddie Vedder, I believe, was from.
Is there a famous record store down there? Huh?
Luz
Is that
Records?
where Luz is?
Yeah.
Rad.
Dude, I just love your the world traveler, man.
Buddy, I've been everywhere. I've been everywhere, man. Well, I mean, I was in the Marine Corps.
That's right.
And so
weren't you at Pendleton?
In San Diego and Pendleton, and a good friend of mine that I grew up with, his mom lived in San Diego, so we would on the weekends go down to San Diego. It wasn't a very cool place to go hang out if you were a Marine, because nobody really wanted to have anything to do with you, and you didn't even know how uncool you were. You were just happy to be there as a kid. You're just like, I'm here and this is amazing. And they're just like, fuck you, world cop. You're like, I'm just like a dude trying to find some happiness. Yeah, people, they didn't want to, it's not hard to spot a Marine.
Yeah.
Right?
No, not at
all. Not hard to spot them.
Yeah.
But those were fun times. Ooh, buddy.
I bet.
So how long did 3 Minute Miracle go?
So 3 Minute Miracle, we went and we tracked, we did an album with Nico Bullis, who is Neil Young's longtime producer from, when did he start with that? I believe he started with him, Keep On, Rocking the Free World, he's still with them. So we did a album with him in Van Nuys, and so we kind of shopped that. As soon as it was done, we kind of shopped it as 3 Minute Miracle, and then we're like, we got to change the name. The name became Royal Automatic because, of course, Velvet Revolver had just coming out, so that was the latest and greatest. And so it was Royal Automatic for about 2 weeks. And then we were still looking for a name. And my daughter, her middle name is Jane. And somebody came up with Daredevil. So it's like Daredevil Jane. And that was it. So we became Daredevil Jane. But we started shopping the album and nobody was biting. And Tommy was a little bit older at that time. Back then it was once you hit late 30s, early 40s, is kind of the industry didn't want anything to do with you at that time,
Put them
And so
out to
it's like,
pasture.
you guys go on without me. Yeah. You guys got to go on without me. And so he kind of gave the blessing, and we got a couple new guys and reformed as Daredevil Jane, and kind of just played out that record as best we could.
Let me ask you this. There's a certain danger when you have a name in the name of your band, and it's not the
Mm-hmm.
name of any person in the band, like
Right.
Harvey Danger
Mm-hmm.
or Ugly Kid Joe. Everyone thinks that someone in that band, like the singer is Joe, or
Right.
the
Or Pretty
singer of
Boy
Harvey
Floyd or
Danger is
something.
exactly any
Yeah.
of these kinds of things,
Yeah.
right? Did anyone think
Right.
you? Did anyone call you Jane?
No. So we came up with a story that, we had to have a cool story of what the name was,
Yeah.
So I said it was, okay, so there's kind of like a homeless woman, and she would go around and she would ask people for money, and for money she would kind of do these daredevil stunts. And so, it was kind of like the cool story because Buck
It's a
Cherry
pretty
had,
believable story in Hollywood.
yeah, yeah, totally. So that was kind of like the story at the time. You got it, but nobody thought we were Jane. I had a different alias at that time, which is pretty funny. Only a few people call me it. I'm afraid to give it because then you start Googling and find some ridiculous photos.
You had a stage name?
Of course.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So going back to Whiskey Star, I went by Adrian Gunner, and
Adrian Gunner.
it was Adrian Gunner. My mom helped me pick out the name, so it was like that was kind of cool. My mom
Yeah.
helped me. Yeah.
I mean, Peter Summit is a pretty good name.
Yeah.
It sounds like
So
you've got a vivid contract.
yeah,
It's that kind of name. It's like either that or you're an inspirational speaker.
right. Like Peter Montero. Actually, that was the street name. I grew up on Montero. That would have been my vivid name.
Is that
Honestly,
right?
it's pretty good. Yeah, Peter
Nice.
Montero. Yeah, but yeah, after Daredevil Jane, and I kind of like regrouped and kind of like changed paths. My brother had always told me, he's like, dude, you need to go by your original name and your middle name. Summit's my middle name.
Is that right?
So yeah, Peter
Your
Summit
middle name
Ross
is
is
Summit.
my is Summit.
What kind of hippies are your parents?
So I'm the only one in my family with two middle names, and Summit was a family name, and my dad wanted to
Whoa.
name me Ned. Yeah, so they couldn't agree on. My dad wanted me to be named Ned. My mom wanted me to be Peter, and so they agreed to have my middle name be Ned Summit. And it's not necessarily my favorite, so I just usually drop the Ned and go by Summit.
How Summit is a family name. It's such a
Somewhere in the
bold
family, yeah.
name.
Yeah.
It's good. Definitely
I
sounds,
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
I just assumed,
That was made up.
Well, here's the funny thing about me. I think I only realized 20 years ago that people could make a name up. I thought that all these people in bands just only the most interesting exotic people gravitated towards being performers. I just thought they had amazing names.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, how did they luck? All these people really lucked out with cool parents,
Yeah.
That's how
it's
naive.
funny though. It's like, yeah, but it's funny that, after all that time in those bands, and I gotta have an alias, I have to have an art name, that I actually really liked my name,
Right.
And I think Peter was kind of like a tough name growing up. It's like one of those names that get picked on, of course. So that's probably why I wanted to change it. But yeah, I love it now. And my brother, he was adamant about me going by my, birth name. He thought it sounded so like British, like cool, like I'd be in
It
the
kind of
Smiths or
does.
something, Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Summit. Yeah.
Nice. So so some time went by between 2015 and you guys moved to Vegas in 2021?
2020, 2022. Yes.
Wow.
June of last year. Yeah.
So what's happening musically uh at the end of you guys had 20 names and I've already forgotten. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, Whiskey Star,
Daredevil
then
Jane.
Daredevil Jane. Yeah.
At
Daredevil
that
Jane. So yeah. Yeah.
So how long does this go on and what do you guys get up to?
Daredevil Jane, we were around probably about 5 years. And, we were doing some good stuff. We started touring on the East Coast. We did a tour with Bangkok Five, and you ever heard of those guys, Bangkok Five? They did a tour with the Cult. They're actually really cool. Who else we do? We did something with Buck Cherry. We had just signed with TKO, and we did one show in Oklahoma with Buck Cherry. I had a funny story about that, actually, if I have time to share it.
Sure.
So we got a show with them in Oklahoma, and we pick up, a few shows here and there between the way. And it's snowing out. It's freezing cold. And we got our van, and we're like, we got to change. We got to get ready for the show. We just did sound check. So we grab our stuff, and we find just a room. It turns out to be a dressing room. And there's flowers on the table and a little card. It says, "Congratulations for your Grammy nomination." I'm like, oh shit. We're in Buck Cherry's dressing room, and everybody just starts changing, taking off their clothes. And I'm like, got my, looking over my shoulder in hopes that they're not walking in. And so I just change real quick, and I go into the bathroom and start putting on my eyeliner, because at that time, that's what he did.
Yeah.
Josh opens up the door. He's like, "Oh, sorry," and closes the door. I just thought it was so funny that I'm in his dressing room putting on eyeliner, but he was so cool. Like, "Hey, sorry to bother you."
Right.
And super cool guys.
I've always gotten along with those guys. They've always been super good,
Yeah.
good to me.
Yeah.
Can I find Daredevil Jane music online?
You can. It's I think it's currently selling on Amazon for about $99 or something like that. It's funny because when I see that, it's kind of wow. But
Right.
it's actually it's on iTunes, and
Awesome.
yeah, for a good listen, it's interesting, man. It's I think you will hear a big difference from where I was then to where I'm at now. I think I'm kind of like a late bloomer in self-discovery, so.
Is it more straight rock?
It's more straight rock. It was kind of like more party rock at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, our shows went off. I mean, we were part of we started a scene in San Diego and found a way into LA, and, people came out. We were playing packed houses at, the Roxy and stuff like that. And,
Awesome.
it was good. Yeah. Had a good little run.
Can we talk about why, well, at some point you're inspired to start a new band.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to assume it's because this band breaks up.
This band did break up. The guitarist got a girlfriend, and
Oof.
I don't know if you've ever had this experience where
Never had one.
Now he wants to spend every minute with that girlfriend, and it's like that was it. So that band was pretty much done. And the irony is that I'm married. I got 3 kids at this time, and I'm still showing up to rehearsals. I'm at every show. You know, mind you, I want to be present for my kids, but I was in it, man. You know, like this is music is. There's nothing better to me than being on stage and performing. So the band did break up, and I kind of felt out a couple of things after, but I found a project out of Orange County at that time. So I started making the drive from San Diego to Orange County. And it was kind of at that time when Avenged Sevenfold was really, you know, we're kind of like newer to the scene, you know, like world kind of like scene of that metal kind of stuff. And so Bullets and Octane, Avenged Sevenfold. Anyways, so started a band called Victoria Project, and Alex Rodriguez from Seosin started playing drums for us, and we did that for about 3 years and tracked an EP that never saw the light of day, but the songs were really, really good. It was like I just went melodic from this metal, like party rock band, very melodic. It was kind of like Avenged Sevenfold meets The Cult meets like Thrice or something, because one of the guitarists was totally into Thrice, was his favorite band. Right. So it was very, you know, and I was just kind of like doing I was kind of like all over the place. You know, it was good. There were some really good songs on there. Actually, we were tracking in Matt Sorm's Drac Studios out of Hollywood in his home. Yeah. And we were doing some drums, and he happened to be home. And he came in to listen to one of the tracks and hear us, you know, see what we were doing. And this is probably one of the coolest moments in my career in music. And he's just like on the console and he's listening. It's a song called She Sells Blood. And as soon as it's done, he looks over at me and he's like, "Great fucking vocals, man." And that was like, I could have just like ended it all right there, you know? So
yeah,
that was a cool moment.
He's actually a really good singer.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he just put out I heard him. He just put out an album, right?
Oh, I don't know.
He was actually singing on it.
I've heard
or at least a song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go check that out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's great, good. Man. That felt really good, man.
Even though you and I both know that a compliment from whomever is worth only what the value you give it, you know? Like it feels good to hear it from someone who operates at a high and successful level. It feels great when your mom says, "This is great. You did a really good job."
Yeah.
But when someone who's played like Rock in Rio says, "This is really good, amazing, good job," it hits differently, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, at that time too, Velvet Revolver Scott was out. So I was like, dude, is this my way in? Or, you know, if they see this band through? I mean, I was hoping for it, man.
I think everyone was hoping for a shot at that gig.
Yeah.
I know 20 people who submitted tapes, you know?
Totally. Yeah. So
that EP never came out.
Never came out. I have a couple of songs on my Spotify. Not Spotify, I'm sorry. SoundCloud is where they kind of live now. It's too bad. The guitarist was just a shredder. I mean, he was so good. But it was one of those things, man, where I feel like up until that point, like, and I just felt like I was not in a band where people that this is all they want to do, and that, you know, this is what they are put on earth to do. It's like, yeah, they're all great players, but you know, other distractions happen and then they're gone. And that's kind of like what happened with me until I found Crashing Wayward. It was kind of like a game changing.
What keeps you motivated? Because it's hard to stay motivated and focused, especially and life throws you a lot of distractions and a lot of
Yeah.
curveballs. How do you stay motivated and focused?
At that point, I was a single father, and I was a full time. I had them full time at that time.
Wow.
So I wasn't even like, it was like a daydream. I was like, man, I used to pray. Like, I'd go see shows. I almost didn't even want to go see shows because I hated seeing shows and seeing other people perform. So staying motivated was difficult. It was like one of those kind of things like I could do that, but there were a few like ads I answered or connected with people, and I tracked a few songs here and there, but nothing really, like, nothing felt right. And I had a friend. He started off as like a diehard fan during Daredevil Jane days. Became a good friend of mine, and he would always just find something for me, and he would just send me like whatever. Like, I'm like, no, man, that's not kind of like the sound I'm going for. Or one day he just sent me a text saying, hey, this band broke up, singer quit, and I submitted your SoundCloud to him. And he sent me a screenshot, and it had a little icon photo, and I kind of zoomed in, and it was Stacy. I'm like, I know that guy. Tell him who I am. And so he did. And then it was kind of like, Stacy was like, I do know him. And he kind of listened to my stuff and was like, had me come out. And we reconnected after like 20 years.
So that band, Stacy sort of put the foundation of that band together in LA?
He did. So he was he was in Vegas actually.
Oh.
So I started making the move out here and came out for an audition, nailed it. And asked, it was like one of those things. Like, if I'm driving out here, man, I was just like, I said to him on the phone, because it got to the point where I felt so defeated. And I said to him, it's like, I'm just going to throw it out there. I said, do not ask anybody else to come in. I'm your guy. And so I drove out, and we joke about that now. But
I love that.
I think it kind of worked, Yeah. So yeah, it's out of Vegas, and it was a different band. It was called Electric Radio Kings at the time. He was doing a band called Electric Radio Kings, and that is Dave Harris, our guitarist in Crashing Wayward, had just come in, and he was kind of filling in and helping out in that band. And then Carl came in, so ended up the four of us were doing Electric Radio Kings. COVID hit, and Electric Radio Kings just was like, no more. I kind of just told Stacy, man, we're writing new stuff, and it's time to like change direction. I could have done other people's songs, but I really didn't want to, I really wanted to do my own stuff within this band and this project. And so that's kind of how it came about.
Carryover songs on the record?
No carryover songs at all. This is all original Crashing Wayward. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The songs are great. The melodies are super hooky. The record has all of the makings. And also, what the fuck do I know? But it has all the makings of when I hear something, I'm like, well, fuck, this could be huge. Like, this is something that, and when I think about what could be huge, I think, I like this. This is good. This is stuck in my head. But also, more importantly, because I'm not the demographic, I'm fucking 51-year-old like rural white dude that doesn't buy records and doesn't live close to a city to see a show. But my sister would also love this. And my sister fucking buys CDs, you know? So
Right.
when I think me and my sister are into this, then I know it's destined for greatness.
That's awesome. Well, you're going to share it with your sister then? Sorry.
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
On
good.
top of the tunes being great, the record sounds amazing. So walk me through not why it sounds great. Walk me through some songwriting and then the production, because it's slick.
Mm-hmm.
It's ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that has everything to do with, aside from the songwriting, that has everything to do with our producer, Mike Gillies. And he's been around a long time. He had worked with Metallica. Okay, just to put it like into perspective, his brother-in-law is Bob Rock. So he's, been around some pretty awesome sessions and studios and albums. So he's been working with Metallica, or he had been working with Metallica since the first Load album, The Cult, Motley Crue. He's done stuff with Shania Twain recently, Our Lady Peace. So he's just kind of like, he's like one of those, like, when he talks to you, I don't even know what he's talking about, man. He's like talking about like megahertz and like decibels, and I'm like, dude, just talk English, man. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. He's like Doc from Back to the Future.
How do you guys get?
But he just like, so he had been working with Electric Radio Kings. He actually kind of he took over their album that they put out and remixed it and did some production on it. Mm-hmm. And so when we started working on new songs, which could have been Electric Radio Kings, we stayed there, right before COVID. We did like a pre-production with him, and we only had like 2 songs at that time. But going into COVID, we just started talking again, and we put it down, like, let's get to work, and he was all on board. And there's a little bit of history there with Stacy and him working together, but he's just like, I like to think that he really believed in the project. He really believed in everybody in this band, and he really made me feel like he believed in my lyrics I was writing and melodies, and he really kind of like you heard Breathe, it's like,
yeah,
it's kind of like, he really kind of like put a lot into it. I'm super grateful for it.
That song it takes you on a trip, and it's not, it's a very digestible song. It's like, there's nothing that comes at nothing that comes at you from left field where it's like, surprise. But there are enough different things that happen through the song to make it feel like it's really moving. It's not an epic song, but you get to the end and you're like, whoa, it's over. It's like a 3-minute song, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's funny because
but there's so much, like it's dense. It's really, really good.
Yeah, thank you. That was like, I don't know what it is. Where it's funny because sometimes I listen. I don't know if you get this, but sometimes you listen to, your own songs, and it's like, shit, man, I wrote that. How did I come up with that? How did I come up with those words? How did I come up with that melody?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I feel with a lot of like these songs on this album. Is like, wow, it's like, it's like kind of like, I know I did this to you before when we first met. I asked you if you liked Guacamole from Step Brothers the movie, and you're like, I don't watch movies.
I did see that
But
movie, but just once, and it was a long time
oh,
ago.
okay, yeah, it's just
Uh,
like writing these songs is like an outer body experience, So
right.
I think that's
So
kind of like,
you went from from party rock to it kind of sounds like, and maybe I'm making an assumption, but it seems like all the culmination of all of your influences, including ones that never surfaced before and just were sort of embedded in you from your youth, come together in this album and in this band. Do you feel
mhm,
that way?
absolutely, yeah. This is like for the first time
I see
in
what you
my
did there.
life. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I get in trouble, man. I got to make sure I don't repeat lyrics. I already used that. I already used the word first. I can't do it again.
This is the
Um,
way you subliminally get the song in people's minds.
totally. Um, I I know it sounds cliche, but I really kind of like found myself in this band and on these songs, and it's like it's that combination of all those bands and influences, like that playlist I sent you. It's like I am so heavily in. I love rock and roll. Like Crashing Wayward is five guys coming together for the love of rock and roll, but we have such a diverse, influence and background, and this band kind of allows everybody to be who they are.
Right.
It's like I have such a going back to like my love of soul and everything, but I have such a love for post punk, you know, uh, new wave, new romantic. Uh, those melodies, are
Oh
just
yeah.
like it's like Major in Vienna. You know, that song is just like all of a sudden. I feel like that's kind of like Breathe. It's just like da, 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 and then da, 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 da. It's like yeah, I'm flying.
Right.
Um, I think that's what I kind of try to bring to this band is something that isn't obvious, in rock and roll melodies, I guess.
I think it's working. It sure feels like it's working. Um how did you so you guys are affiliated with Ron Keel. Is that right? I've got that right.
We are. Yeah. Ron Keel is the owner and founder of our label. So RFK Media.
Wild. And so
I
how
know.
does this come together?
So Sean, our drummer, actually, he's from South Dakota, which is where Ron lives now, and he's based out
Wow.
of.
Okay.
So going back, Sean actually played drums for, gosh, I think one of Ron's bands, K2, I think at the time. So Sean was playing drums with them and he became good friends with them. And he started sharing songs with Ron. First it was Breathe when we first put it out, and then Disco Kills. And
Mm-hmm.
then, Ron would play it on his station, KRFK radio. So he played Breathe, supportive, like cool song, played it. Disco Kills, yeah, it's a cool song, man. I played it. Sent him Stranger Days, which we kind of just softly released only on Bandcamp. And 2 weeks went by and Sean hadn't heard back from Ron. So he's like, I guess he didn't like it. And then he got a call out of the blue. It's just like, dude, you ruined my week. he absolutely loved Stranger Days. Something in it hit him. It was like, he's told him it was like the best song I've heard in 20 years, you know? So,
Amazing.
because of that song, he was like, yeah, because of that song, he's like, he was just getting, the label going, and he wanted to talk to us and he wanted to bring us on. And we were like, Ron is such a hardworking guy. I mean, I don't even know if he sleeps, but he's like believes in this band more than, anybody I know. And because of that, it was like, that felt like the right thing for us, right fit. I think that because of that, he can, he'll go to bat for us and make some stuff happen.
Awesome. The record comes out, we're 5 weeks ahead right now. So is it the 12th of June?
No, 9th.
The 9th
I
of
think
June.
we're going to release, right? Yeah.
And do you have plans for a release party, and B, the rest of the year?
Yeah. So, now you're hearing this in June, so we have already played a couple of shows, but,
Back to the Future.
Yes, Back to the Future. So we do have, we're looking to kind of book throughout the rest of the year from summer on. We're going to have a CD release party, which we've actually just started talking and discussing, and hopefully put something really cool and different and unique together. Kind of incorporate some art or something. My brother is a really well-known street artist, and his love of like a lot of that music that I shared with you in that playlist is because of him. And I, we shared a room growing up. So it's like, like the cool older brother that liked all the cool obscure bands, know? So like,
you
to
guys
get him
let
involved.
me know if you want any male nude fire dancers. It's kind of my thing.
Dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I told him I was doing this interview with you.
I can put a torch anywhere.
Yeah. A little Ace Frehley, but
you told him you're doing an interview.
Yeah, I told him I was doing an interview with you, and he's like, "Dude, that guy's a ripping bass player." And I think I told you he's like the hugest New Order Peter Hook fan. So,
did he go see us play in L.A.? Did we play San Diego?
We did play San Diego.
San Diego.
Yeah, I think he might have been there
at the place like down on the water.
Right, Humphreys. I think it is. Right.
Place, yeah. What a wild place! What an amazing place! I watched the opening band from a balcony of like a condo, and that was my room for the night. It was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's
a super cool place.
The danger of touring through San Diego and LA is like, I go and you can't get good Mexican food in New York. So when I'm in California, I'm like, tacos, give me that burrito. And then showtime comes and I'm just like, fucking give me something to puke in.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Jesus.
See, that's, I kind of have it the opposite because of singing. It's like, I don't eat probably about no more than 6 hours before a show. So I'm just like, before shows, I just see like everybody in the band scarfing down, like catering or whatever. I'm like, there's no way.
That's what you should do. Yeah, that would be the smart thing to do. Does your brother play music?
Like everything. He plays bass like Peter Hook. Yes. No, he does. He's a great artist. He can, anything he touches artistically, he can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's heavily influenced. There's a big Peter Hook tone to his style playing. But yeah, he played bass in that very first band I was in, Whiskey Star.
Right.
Ben Starr.
That's right.
Yeah,
But did you say you have two brothers? I didn't know
I do.
which
I come
brother.
from a family of six, actually three
Is that
brothers.
right?
So yeah, family of six.
Three brothers, that means you have two sisters also.
That
Is that
is
right?
Right.
Pretty good math
That
for
is
a
right. Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
public school kid.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big fan. Where do you fall in the lineup?
I am in the middle of four, so I'm four. So right there, me and my
Fuck, those are
brother
tough
that I was
spots,
mentioning. Yeah,
man. You and Ben
yeah,
shared
it's
a
like kind
room.
of like a Ben. Yeah, and then my little brother Nick. Yeah, we shared a room. So one time it was three of us. Yeah, it
Bunk
was funny,
beds.
man, because my we did have bunk beds, but my brother David, he was on, which is Ben. Uh, his side was all like posters of the Cure, Specimen, Alien Sex Fiend, New Order, and then
Bauhaus.
our side was all like clean and baseball, and so
Yeah.
yeah,
Padres.
yeah. Never a Padres fan, man.
Are you a baseball fan?
I was. I used to be a huge baseball fan, and then when I started getting heavily into music, it was just like I played basketball, but I kind of just like lost interest in sports. Kind of, I love playing it,
Sure.
but kind of like watching had just really wasn't my thing. It's like just became all music, you know.
Doing is
So
it's way more fun to play a concert than watch one on TV,
totally,
right?
it's true. Yeah,
Listen is really awesome.
thank you.
And I just, I don't really, it's like, it's awesome to get to know you because I see your Instagram feed and had a evening of hanging out and have slapstick with you, and your bandmates. And so,
Yeah,
I don't really know you guys from Adam, not your brother. But you guys seem awesome. And so I think I hope it works. I hope that it catches and it reaches people. I hope that it's able to get in front of the audience that it deserves. Because I want everyone to get what they want. And you guys have
yeah.
obviously worked really hard.
Appreciate it, man. And it means a lot having me come on and shoot the shit with you all this time, man. And just kind of like, I felt like it was just, I know this is going out into the ether for everybody to hear, but it was cool to just like have a coffee and talk to you about music and just get to know you even
Man,
better. And I better see you on the road, man.
You're a late coffee drinker. 7:30. If I had a coffee at 7:30, I would not be able to fall asleep till 2.
Really?
Yeah.
I got a lot of milk in mine, so
I'm 51, man. I can't, I'm going to have to get up in the middle of the night twice because I drink this water. I'm Uncle Mike.
Yeah.
Well, I will have, I have a day off. I think I talked to Nils and we're going to try to plan a little, like some kind of lunch or something.
Cool.
For whoever's around. So, I'll reach out. I'll let you know. I'll see what's what.
Yeah. And you're going to be in Vegas, right? Playing.
We play the next
right?
night. Yeah. At somewhere.
Okay. Okay.
I'll let you, I'll confirm.
Yeah.
I don't want to plug my own show right now. This is your podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
hopefully.
I really appreciate you giving me so much time. And again, like anyone that's listening or watching, I say, go listen to this record. Will there be physical copies to purchase around the release, or will it be digital release?
Yeah. No, so digital, we're going to do physical as well too, CD and vinyl. And that's actually one thing I did, if we have a minute,
Yeah.
we're going to release a single before the album. The next single we're going to release is Closer. And so we have a video coming out with that as well too. And that'll come out a month before the album. And then, yeah, so we'll go from there. So a lot of stuff coming up.
So that'll have been out for a month when this podcast comes out. But
exactly. So go to YouTube, please watch the video, like and subscribe.
I'll see you in May. I'll have seen you already in May for people
Yes.
who are listening. God, this is getting awkward. I'm going to kill this. Listen,
yeah.
you're great. I wish you the best and everything you do always.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it, man.
All right, I'm going to kill this fucker.
Yeah.